Good morning and Jai Hind everyone. I hope you all are fit and fine. This particular video, friends, is very special and at the same time historic because in this particular video, for the first time, we are going to discuss deeply about the journey of the Indian Air Force starting in 1932, 8th of October, from Wasteland Wapiti Plains to this day in 2025 of Feb, where we are now planning to launch fifth generation aircrafts working on AMCA. This journey has been so far very interesting, filled with challenges, ups and downs. So this particular video is very interesting and helpful for someone who is deeply passionate about flying in particular and loves and is interested in joining the Indian Air Force or the flying branch for that matter anywhere. If he or she has a general interest in flying, this is the video for you. So let me first take you through this tour of the slides which I have prepared so that you just get an overall idea of lot of interesting things that we are going to discuss. Firstly, we'll be starting with the history, as you can see here, right? Doctrine and roles of the IAF, terms in IAF. And let me firstly, just show you this particular slide where we'll be starting from the end, and then in a flashback format we'll go to the very start. We'll start with, of course, flying a jet. I'll be taking you through roughly through the procedure where you need to imagine that you are sitting in a fighter jet cockpit right in front of you, and you can see these panels like right console, left console, right? You can see this joystick. Obviously you can, I'll give you a rough idea how to use these control panels, how to basically start a fighter jet. Now you'll be surprised why I'm going to do all of this, right? Obviously you have to clear first an exam, a written exam, then you got to clear your the interview and then the medicals, and after that you get to fly a fighter jet. But I am starting it from backwards, right? Actually the point where you need to go, right? So just to give you a rough idea how it feels like starting a fighter jet, how it works, what are the buttons, what kind of demand and challenges are faced by a fighter pilot, so that not only in the way of reels and short videos which do the glamorization of the life in the Indian Air Force, and for that matter any other air force, right? And actually understand the physical and mental caliber required to become a fighter pilot. All right, all set. Let us now start. See the control that you can see at the very starting is called a joystick, wherever my cursor is. For fighter jets, it's called HOTAS. We'll get back to that, but it's called HOTAS. This particular device that you can see right here. Okay. And apart from this, if you are sitting in a fighter jet, you will see right in front of you a head up display. Right. Toward the left side is the left instrument panel. Towards your exactly at your eye level is the center instrument panel. Then is the right instrument panel. Similarly, is the left vertical panel, right vertical panel, left console, and right console. And now these things contains lot of buttons, right? Lot of indicators, lot of dials, instrument, everything to support you. Now one might wonder why in an aircraft are there lot of buttons? Why can just not there be a steering wheel or a joystick? Why a lot of buttons? Like, see, an aircraft flies at sometimes supersonic speeds. Okay, and that's twice and thrice the speed of sound, and in that matter you cannot look out of your window and to see that, okay, I have to take aage se right, and you have to take after a right after 2 meters. So the visibility is not by seeing it from your cockpit. In fact, you do not see outside. Lot of cockpit designs are such that you can see minimum things outside. Let us say you take example of Su-30 MKI. If you are sitting in a Su-30 MKI, the design is as such that it allows you to look outside to some extent. But if you are sitting in a MiG-29, the design does not allow you to do so. So lot of flying that you do is based on your inputs that you get from the instrument panels about your heading, where you are going, north or south, about your altitude, at how much is the altitude, and about all other parameters, whether you are going down, whether your nose is up, a lot of things. So it's basically your interaction as a pilot with the instruments. So one must be very comfortable with reading the instruments, and one must not get overwhelmed by presence of lot of instruments. Sometimes what as a pilot people do, is to look at only one instrument and ignore the readings from the other instrument. They get satisfied by the correctness of one particular reading, ignoring the other readings. For example, you might be looking at the heading indicator showing that the aircraft is going north, and you might be happy that, okay, north is where I want to go. But in reality, it might happen that your aircraft is actually descending and you are not focusing on that. So it's a multi dimensional, at the one time, multitasking kind of setup that you need to be aware of, right? So if you are doing some multitasking back at your home, then you are good to go, right? Obviously with other things that are required for a fighter pilot business. Now will be, this is just an overview, so you get an idea. This is not an ordinary video on, about the history of the Indian Air Force or as such. Like this disclaimer that you can read, it's a part of the video series, right? And the aircraft, this is very hectic PDF, right? Close to 216 pages, right? But I promise you that the interest that you share, same kind of interest is shared by me, and same kind of interest if you are sharing with aviation, with flying, you'll not be bored for a single minute in the video, right? So this is not for a general audience. Aircraft details are discussed for 50 plus flight parameters. IAF history is also present in a detailed manner. I've also covered basics of flying a fighter jet from takeoff to landing, everything in detail. Apart from this, the expectations from IF's fighter pilot, one of the most important thing that we are going to discuss, right? What are they actually expecting from a fighter pilot? What kind of mental stress handling capacity that you require. They do not want person who gets stuck to one particular way of action or one particular way of framework, but persons who can be resourceful, right? Okay, and how you can train yourself on that regards. And then I'll tell you that there is no special ability that is required, right? Everything that a human can do can be done by you if you are a human. Okay, so all these things you can read the disclaimer, right? And so that finally it will help you to thoroughly, stick firmly to your purpose, know yourself well, know the requirements well, and then you can take your place among the brave the Indian Air Force awaits, right? Let me first again repeat that we'll be discussing the history, doctrine, and roles of the Indian Air Force, various branches, the terms in the Indian Air Force, the squadrons, the ballistic missiles, what are cruise missiles, what is supersonic, hypersonic, what are squadrons, units, everything in detail, and aviation, and how something works. So this is definitely for some enthusiasts, some flying enthusiasts, flying fighter jet, helicopter. Infantry will discuss fixed wing. Okay, see, there are two parts. Okay, just take it very lightly. This is just a formal kind of, informal kind of conversation between we two, you who is listening, and I am who is speaking, and try to imagine what I'm saying and get involved in the process. Firstly is the fixed wing. What are fixed wing aircraft? So fixed wing aircraft is the fighter jets. They have fixed wing. The wings are not movable, but rotary wing means helicopter. So rotary wings means helicopters, since the wing can rotate. And then the transport, then other types, missiles, weapons, training, officers' roles, current status, future of IF, and visual hints to identify aircraft. The ranks in the Indian Air Force, just a glimpse, right? The commands and everything. Okay, the nicknames of the various squadrons, and the most awaited about the various fighter jets. If I just take a glimpse, just take you through this, the training procedures. Okay, and all of these things. And last but not the least is about the IAF's test pilot school. All right, so I hope you get an overview. Let us start with the first thing first, which is how to fly a fighter jet, and then with the other things. Now let us start. And this is all about listening. Imagine yourself as a pilot and you are sitting in this particular cockpit that you can see right in front of you, right? Are you there with me? And now once sit at this particular seat, these are the devices. Get comfortable in that seat, wherever, if you are sitting at a chair. Okay. Right in front of you is this joystick, and it's called HOTAS. Okay, let me write it. HOTAS. So this is called hands-on throttle and stick. Okay, so this complete setup is called HOTAS, right? It has also got some buttons, right, to fire some missiles, some weapons. Okay, so you can fire right there in front of you. Okay, and apart from this, this particular joystick can help you roll. Now listen to carefully. You can roll the aircraft using this joystick. Okay, apart from this, you can also change the pitch of the aircraft. Now what are these two things? Roll means basically if you are flying a fighter jet. Okay, right? So this particular side is your right wing, this particular side is your left wing, and this is the front of the fighter jet. So you can just roll towards your right wing. So you can just tilt your right side. you can just tilt towards the right side or tilt towards the left side. Okay, you have seen maneuvers of an aircraft, right? So that can be done by just moving the joystick towards the right. Now imagine you move the joystick towards the right, your aircraft along with you will go move right. Okay, if you can imagine that. And if you move that joystick towards the left, the aircraft along with you will move towards the left. That is called rolling motion. Now you will also be interested in aircraft in a dogfight going upwards. So you focus on the nose of the aircraft. The front portion is called the nose of the aircraft, right? Now using this joystick, if you pull this joystick backwards, the nose will go up. It's very simple. It's like playing a game. Now if you just put the joystick forward, the nose will go down. So from there you can change the pitch. This is a very very simplified version. Okay, this does not mean that you can just go and fly a fighter jet. Obviously this is a very very highly simplified version. This will be, you know, trained to you during the training. They do close to 2 years of training to mastering all of this. Okay, so just keep it for informative purpose and the purpose of interest, right? So this is roll and pitch. Obviously there is another thing called turn. Okay, see, there is a difference between rolling and turning. Rolling means if you are here, you just roll, you maintain a level flight, you maintain the path you are heading, and you just roll your wings, you just tilt towards your left or towards your right. But turning is different. When you turn, you actually move the nose towards left. If the nose is going straight, now when you turn, it might go in this direction or it might go in this direction. Okay, so it can be a level turn also, or it can be a rolling turn also. So you can turn at the same time and also bank a little. Bank means tilt. Listen to this word called bank. Bank just means, if I say right bank, means your wing is tilted towards the right. Okay, and your joystick is moved towards the right. Okay, all right, I hope you got an overall idea about how to fly when you are in air. Okay, so now we'll be focusing on how to start a fighter jet and how to land it once you are done with the business. Okay, I'll just give an overall idea. So first, make yourself aware of these instrument panels once you're sitting at the fighter jet. Never touch anything that has been painted black and yellow. All right. So for example, this particular thing, never touch that. This is for seat ejection, right? Whatever you can see in black and yellow, these are just for emergency timings. Okay, now this is the head up display. Left instrument panel because it lies on left. Center is because it lies on center. Right, left vertical panel, right vertical panel, left console, right console. This which you can see is the lever. Okay, this is the throttle lever which starts the engine. So basically if you move the lever, it injects the fuel in the engine and then it starts burning. Okay, and the fighter jet start, it's basically turning the power start of a bike. If you have ever sat on a bike, started a bike, you actually turn on the ignition, power start. So this is the lever in the aircraft which does so. Okay, and lot of instruments gives lot of information. We are not going to confuse you in that. Now let us, why not focus on this hands-on throttle instant stick, right? So the stick which you can see, if I just focus on this, okay, so what it can do for you, so it has these buttons and let me show it to you. All right, so starting with this particular switch that you can see at the top is the sensor control switch. So it basically control all the sensors that are available. Okay, uh, sensors detecting various things like what is the temperature in the cockpit, okay, and other parameters, what is the height, what is the humidity, all of these things. Trim hat, this is one particular thing. Reiki event mark button. Reiki, this word Reiki means reconnaissance, right? Reconnaissance means when you go over an area and you survey the area for the purpose of some military intelligence gathering, right? So that is Reiki event. So you mark the event and then the this aircraft will note how much time it was doing the recce, taking the photographs. Okay, this red button obviously is the weapon release button, right? Okay, this is for trigger. See, you are having also got some bullets, right? Some bullet shots, right? So damage the other aircraft in close combats. Okay, for far away combats, you will obviously require to lock a missile, the beyond visual range missile or anything that does. But in a close combat, when your enemy is nearby, you will be required to use a trigger. So there is a trigger also available for you, so you can use that trigger, or this particular trigger, to just keep it pressed and it will fire ammunitions as per the given rate. Weapon select switch, you can select the weapon, which weapon you want to select. Undesignated nose wheel steering button, this is not designated. Paddle switch, okay. NWS disengage, this is for NWS disengage. Nose wheel steering, okay. Apart from this, it is autopilot disengage and G limiter override switch. Okay, so this is for G force, right? So these are some buttons. Just take an overall idea. When during your training, you will be having a detailed idea about how these things work, and at this stage you don't need that much details. Okay, so just an overall idea. Okay, now when we move further, let us start with the left instrument panel. Oh, shall I show you the left instrument panel? You already know that the left instrument panel is the at the upper side left corner. Okay, left instrument panel is the upper side left corner, and at the downside is the left vertical panel. Okay, so remember that. Now, when we'll start with the left instrument panel, the instrument panel, the whole of the instrument panel is subdivided into three parts, which is the left instrument panel, okay, center instrument panel, and the right instrument panel. So you see in front of the aircraft, right in front of your eyes, not downward. This is IP called the instrument panel. This is the left instrument panel, this is the center, and this is the right instrument panel. Below that, this side is the vertical panel left and the vertical panel right. Below that is the left console and right console. Okay, so then the left vertical panel, right vertical panel, then left console, right console, head up display. What is a HUD? This is a head up display, the display that you saw right in front of you. Now this comes on a HMD. Now what is this HMD? HMD is this very special kind of helmets that you get as pilots, helmet mounted display. Now imagine you are and there is a screen right in front of you. Let us say this is the your heads up display. Okay, so what is the role of this heads up display? It actually shows you a lot of information about the aircraft, like let us say the altitude, the radar, the enemy locations, everything on this head up display. But this is fixed, right? Now when you move your head towards a little this side or little this side, okay, you're not aware of this information. So that is where the role of a helmet mounted display comes. It fits on your eyes, right? And it creates an imaginary projection of this head up display. And even if when you move your neck here and there, the information that was displayed on head up display is exactly displayed through your helmet mounted display. And so it allows you to move your neck here and there and still retain that information. So be constantly aware of any change that might be happening through with the enemy, and plan your next move effectively and not be late, right? So fighter jets fly with a enormous speed. Time is a very important parameter here. HOTAS. HOTAS is hands on throttle and stick. Control stick is called HOTAS J and throttles are called HOTAS T. Alright. So this HOTAS is hands on throttle and stick. So stick is used to fly the plane. It is used to roll. It is used to take your nose pitch up, do very good maneuvers, right? Control the aircraft, turn and everything, right? This is okay. I didn't tell you about the turn, na? Okay, let me tell you about the turning the aircraft. Turn is done by rudder. Okay, turn is done by rudder. What is a rudder? There are two pedals. You will be surprised that in an aircraft also, very similar to a bicycle, we are using pedals, rudder pedals. So there is a left rudder paddle, there is a right rudder paddle. If you put the left rudder pedal, the aircraft will turn left. Okay, if the aircraft was going in the center, and if you put the right rudder paddle, it will turn right. Okay, so this is the role of the control stick with the weapons. And what is HOTAS T? T is the throttle. Okay, I already told you what is the role of the throttle. It starts the engine basically, and it increases the engine power, right? And it will also be used to increase the speed of the aircraft. So for example, if you inject more fuel using the throttle in the engine, more combustion will happen. That will produce more thrust, right? Means more of the fuel will come from the back end of the fighter jet's engine. That will push the air more faster, right? Okay, and more heavier with more force. So it will get more forward thrust, more velocity. So throttle basically controls your speed. Okay, now if I just take you through this instrument panel, which is your left instrument panel. Okay, you remember left instrument panel towards the upper left side. It contains some switches. Why not let us quickly have a dive through the switches. All right, so first of all, you can see at this stage is the master warning light. Close to that is left engine fire warning and extinguisher light. If your left engine catches fire, and extinguisher light is this. Okay. Then this is the fire extinguisher button. This is the master mode selector. This is the master arm switch. Okay, then left warning and indicator lights. Okay, left digital display. If you know there is any damage toward the left side of the aircraft, the aircraft will detect that. Left digital display. So this is your left digital display towards the left side. Okay, you can have some information at the left side also. Similarly, if you move towards the downward side, this is canopy jettison. Okay. Now, what is canopy jettison? I already told you that whatever is painted yellow and black, do not touch it. Okay. So canopy jettison, if you will, press this button, your canopy, the upper side will just blast away. Right. So it is always used in the case of emergency when you are got locked in a fire situation and you are not able to open the canopy. Then this also is push to jet. Emergency release, aka Admiral's doorbell. So this jettison button, if you pull jettison button, so what will happen if you push this jettison button? Whatever extra fuel you are carrying, right? The fuel tanks that you actually the fighter jets carry a fuel tank. It might appear like a missile at the bottom of the aircraft, but that is a fuel tank. So now that fuel tank, limits your ability because it contains a lot of fuel. It is very heavy, not it obviously little bit costly, but not as much costly as missiles. So you can drop these fuel tanks to increase speed and gain speed during close combat. And if you want to increase your speed, this jettison can be used. Okay. So that is called Admiral's doorbell that you will be remembering. Jettison selector, gear, and flap indicator lights. So these are the lights. Okay, so gear and flap, so whatever gear are you in and your flaps indicator. So we will discuss about the flaps. Flaps are basically part of the wings of the aircraft, and when we will be discussing about how a fighter jet flies, it will be very interesting to know about the role of the flaps in providing lift. Okay, and in making the aircraft actually fly. I was very curious, right, to know how a fighter jet, which is a very heavy kind of machine, can fly. Elephants don't fly. Okay, any heavy object don't fly, but fighter jets do fly. Being that much heavy, how can they do so? Integrated fuel and engine indicator. So these give you information about the engine, right? Obviously, the fuel, it also happens in your right, in your bike also, motorbike also, about how your left engine is working, how much revolutions are there, rotation per minute, what is the temperature of the engine. So all these information. All right, why not now? Let us move to the center instrument panel. So you remember the location of the center instrument panel? You are in a fighter jet, you should remember, right? Right in front of the eyes, towards the left was the left instrument panel, right in front of your eyes. And at the upper side, in the center, is the center instrument panel. It consists of up front controller, or it's called UFC, right? It has some radars. It basically used to communicate with the air traffic control, right? You just not need to fly, but you also need to be in constant communication, right? So there are various radio channels, radar channels through which you can communicate through the to the air traffic controller, constantly sending your output, asking where to land, when to take off, all these things. Heads up display and AOA indicator controls. Okay. So these are the controls. Actually, there are this you can see the BRT brightness. Okay. So this is there are some brightness adjuster also, contrast adjuster also. There are some buttons to adjust the brightness of the heads up display. So that is why there are a lot of buttons. You can see advanced multi-purpose color display. So you can see this particular display here. So this basically will be giving you information about the radar information that you get, and about the map information. You can see clearly see there is a map information. So you will be getting an information about your targets, where to go, so on this particular thing. So that is advanced multi-purpose color display. All right, now let us move on. All right, now come to your right. You will see the right instrument panel. It consists APU fire warning light, left warning and indicator lights, right engine warning, IR cooling switch, right? Backup compass. You can see at the towards towards the very right. This is the backup compass. You can clearly see there is a line. It's called Luber, and this line clearly now shows whatever angle is there 120. So this is at 120, 130, 150. So these are indication like close to 5 indication, I think. So 120, 125, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So this is at 120 currently. This is 120, and this is 125. This is 130. So this is at 130 degree. The heading is 130 degree. That means if you see 0 degree is always north, then 90 degree is east, and 180 degree is this thing. So 130 degree will be close to here. So aircraft is going in a what is, let us say southeast direction, okay, close to southeast direction. This is the heading of the aircraft. All right. Helmet mounted display on brightness you can adjust from this particular sign. Right, digital display, this is digital display, or this also denotes other information that are necessary. Backup attitude indicator, aka backup artificial horizon. Okay, so we'll be focusing on this artificial horizon. See, when you are in an aircraft, okay, you actually need to know your banking, right? So whether your right wing is tilted or your left wing is tilted. Are you going down, are you going up, right? So all these information, where nose is down, where nose is up, where nose is leveled, all this information is shown with the help of artificial horizon indicator called attitude indicator. This basically shows the attitude of the aircraft with reference to a horizon that is in front of you. Horizon means where the sky meets the earth. So this is the sky, this is the earth. You will be seeing a scene of a sky meeting earth right in front of you, the horizon. Now with respect to that horizon, whether you are leveled or you are tilted left or you are tilted right, so that is shown. That is important, right? You will be wanting to know whether you are tilted or left, or either going down, or whether you are up. All these information basically. So these are the pieces of the puzzles, these various instruments, and a minute instrument working to make the overall picture a very beautiful one, a very good picture, so that you can fly this beast machine. Radar warning, receiver display, backup vertical speed indicator, all these are backups. Backup altimeter, backup airspeed indicator, right? So all these are backup in case your primary flight instruments fail to work because of some unforeseen reasons. Left vertical panel. Okay, now let us come to the left vertical panel. Where will you find it? Imagine. So at the upper left corner was the left instrument panel. Close to below that is the left vertical panel. So you'll get these features. Landing gear handle. So what is the landing gear? You have seen in the aircraft these wheels at the front side of the aircraft which are used during the landing. So this is the landing gear handle. This is the flap switch. Okay. So if you put it to full, flap will be full. Okay. If you set in half, it will be half. You can put it to auto also. The selective jettison rotary switch button, right? This is emergency, right? Switch. Do not push this unless you are in emergency. Launch bar switch. All right. Landing taxi light switch. Okay. So you are, if you are landing or taxi light switch, they will turn on lights telling that you are about to land. No. Tail hook bypass switch. Now tail hook bypass switch means if you are you will bypass this, the tail hook will bypass. Okay, there are some aircraft which require a tail hook method, right, to land. Okay, they are basically landed by using a tail hook. Okay, a fly by wire system which we say. Okay, so these fighters just fly by wire. Okay, so since the landing speed is so enormous to, or the runway length is very less, then in that case we can use this tail hook method to stop the aircraft, right, in time. This is the anti-skid switch. We'll be focusing on this term called skidding, right? See, when you are turning an aircraft, the aircraft might skid or it might slip. Okay, imagine you are sitting in a car. Now when a car makes a turn, a sharp turn, you are thrown towards the other side, towards the window side. Okay, so if you are thrown outwards, right, you, I will say that you have skidded. Okay, if you are thrown lot outwards. If you are thrown lot inwards towards the turning side, I will say you are sleeping inside. So that is a kind of two kind of turns: a skidding turn and sleeping turn. And then there is a normal turn, which we will be seeing when we will be focusing on the turn coordinator as a device. Okay, so all of these things, I hope you are aware of this. Don't worry, we'll be discussing about the flaps and all. Now let us come down to the light vertical panel. So right vertical panel, you will see tail hook indicator light, tail hook lever. Okay, this is the tail hook lever. If you can pull that lever, tail hook will come out. Wheels, flaps, hook, anti-skid harness, dispenser. Okay, all right. Wing folding lever. All of these things. These are the levers. You can just pull it up or move it in a particular direction. Lever is just to move in a particular direction. Radar, altimeter. Okay, so all of these things. All right, then hydraulic pressure. All right, then right warning, flight control system, avionics cooling switch, right? So all this you will find at the right vertical panel. Okay, now let us move to the left console. All right, So all right, now let us move to the left console. You are already aware of the position, right? Left console. So in left console, you will get OBOGS, right? Onboard oxygen generation system main switch. Okay. So this is the onboard oxygen generation system main switch, and then you can see a lot of switches, right? Mode, master. Okay. APU and engine start panel. So APU is basically auxiliary power unit. Okay. In case your main power is gone, right, then your auxiliary power unit and engine will support for some time. Okay. And start panel. So this is the engine start panel right here. Okay. So you'll press some switches here and there. Okay. See, basically in a car, you just not simply go and start the car. When you sit in a car, you actually put in the keys, right? When you turn it on, right, then you put a particular switch, right, then the car turns on, right? Similarly in a bike, when you put in the keys, right, you press some buttons, right, adjust some buttons. So these are the some buttons which makes the engine ready. Engine is not like a bicycle. Okay, a fighter jet is not a bicycle, it needs to be slowly done, right? So this has been done in step and step, so to protect the engine and do things in a gradual manner. So this is for engine crank auxiliary power unit. You have to turn it on. Okay, and then after that the role of the throttle comes, right? So you just pull the throttle. I tell you to take you to the throttle also. And once you go to the throttle, then what happens is the engine is it starts rotating, the blade starts rotating, it starts taking air through the intakes, and the fuel gets in, right? And then the blast happens, the engine starts, you can then move on, right? Exterior lights and control panel, ground power control panel, right? Okay. Apart from this, this is OBOGS dial. Now this is volume control panel. This is flight control system control panel. And then there are a lot of switches that you can see, right? And literally, when you will be going through your flight training with the Indian Air Force flying branch or anywhere, the flight training, a private flight training or commercial flight training, you will be made to remember all these switches, right? Literally remember the role of all switches, right? Now right console is electrical system control panel. You can see climate control panel. Electrical control system is the battery, the lights, all climate control panel. Sensor control panel. So whatever sensor, you can also customize them. Okay, so these are the sensors. Manual override handle, interior lights control panel is in the right console. Now let us come to the head-up display. So in the head-up display, all these information are shown. The same HMD is also available with your visor, with your helmet mounted display. The helmet that is there, a very cool helmet. I think one of the most cool helmets to wear. Direction indicator, basically first at the top, you will see a direction indicator or heading bug. So it is basically show you the heading. So you can see this particular display, if you see, every two entries is at a gap of 10 degrees, 330, 340, and this particular arrow shows your current heading. So you can see the particular heading is before 335. Okay, so the heading is 330, around 334 k around heading. All right, so what is 334? So if you go at this particular direction coordinates, this is north, this is east, this is south, and this is west. So this is 90 and this is 180, this is 270. So 330 will be close to this direction. Okay, so you are heading northwest, so you get some idea where you are heading through this particular thing. Okay, now come down. So you'll get a vertical speed in feet per minute. What is this thing called vertical speed? Now imagine yourself in the aircraft. Either the aircraft is climbing up or it is descending down. So whatever it is doing, it is climbing up or descending down. How will it be climbing up? You are basically pulling on your throttle joystick a little backwards, so aircraft is climbing upwards. Okay, so it will have some feet. How many feet per minute is it climbing? So this is the vertical speed indicator showing you 3960 feet per minute. So in aviation, we deal in feet. So you aware of this term called feet per minute. So if I say 1 feet, okay, then this translates to 30 centimeter. If I say close to 3 feet, so overall 3 feet will be your close to 1 meter. 3 feet will be 1 meter. Okay. So if you divide it by three, right? So then you will get 3 1 ja 3, 3 3 ja 9. So this is 1320 meters, right? So in 1 minute, okay, basically the aircraft is climbing 1320 meter. which you will, if convert, this is 1.3 kilometer. So it is a climb of 1.3 kilometer per minute the aircraft is climbing. So you can have an idea of where the aircraft will be. If you continue it for 2 to 3 minutes, it can climb higher. You can also increase the vertical speed using your thrust. Okay, you're giving more fuel, right? Altitude. So this is the altitude directly indicated in feet at 8,670 feet. Obviously, this is the sea level. So you are actually flying at an altitude of 8,670 feet above the sea level. All right. Other indicators is the velocity vector. So this particular aeroplane model that you can see here indicates the velocity vector, and it gives you basically an information about the direction of the velocity. Okay. We'll discuss about in detail in a little while. Horizon line and pitch ladder. So this is your horizon line and pitch ladder. So if this horizon line goes up, that means the aircraft is nose is going up. Okay, and if it's going down, the aircraft is going down. It can also tilt. If it tilts in this direction, you are tilted left, and if it's tilting in direction, you are tilted right. So all of these things, right? Okay, and this guy is shown here by the indicator going up and down. All right, maximum G force recorded. So this denotes the G force. This obviously I think is the time. Okay, current G force is given here, which is 1 times the force of gravitation. This is your Mach number. The means 0.73. What is the Mach number? Let me tell you. The Mach number is basically the speed of the aircraft divided by the speed of the sound. Okay, so this is the speed of the aircraft divided by the speed of the sound. So if the Mach number is 2, means you are flying at 2 times the speed of the sound. Okay, all right. Okay, let me know in the comment box how much is the Mach number for something flying at subsonic speed, hypersonic speed, transonic speed, and supersonic speed. Tell me the information about the Mach number. Okay, angle of attack. Okay, this is 1.7 degree is the angle of attack. So I'll tell you about the angle of attack. Angle of attack is basically related to the wings. Okay, so the wings, the shape of the wings in an aircraft is actually like this. Okay, this is called an aerofoil. Okay, now this aerofoil attacks at what angles when it comes down or it follows a particular trajectory. That is called the angle of attack. We'll discuss about it in detail, but just understand in a overall manner that angle of attack has something to do with the angle that the wings make with the direction in which the aircraft is about to approach a particular direction, right? If it aircraft is approaching a particular direction, see, if it does everything straight, the angle will be different. If it does something in this direction, the angle will be different. Okay, and that determines the lift. Because if you change the angle, okay, if the angle is not that much, less air will come towards the lower side of the aircraft. If less air aircraft's wing, if less air will come towards the lower side of the aircraft wing, then it will generate very less lift, right? So it has got physics to do. Airspeed indicator, this is 410. All right, so what is the airspeed indicator? So airspeed indicator and vertical speed is very, very different. Airspeed indicator is basically your forward speed. Okay, how much air you are getting below your wings. Okay, so that is the airspeed indicator, and vertical speed indicator is basically tells you whether you are going up or you are going down. If it has a positive value, you are going up. It has a negative value, you are going down. Compass and heading scale, you already know. So these are the information that you get through your this banking angle scale, long notches, short notches. Okay, so this is about the long notches that you can see here. This is 15 degree, and anything short you can see is this much. And if it goes towards a particular direction, so it is in the center right here at this particular location is 0. So if it is going in this direction, it means right banking. Okay, if it is going in this direction, it means left banking. So it is not a tough job, right? You'll get acquainted with very soon once you are doing the practice. Now, come to the control sticks, right? This is something you will be, having your hands on throughout your entire span of flying the fighter jet. So, hands-on throttle stick, you can say, a lot of switches. This is the thing, fighter pilots do enjoy during a combat situation. Everybody who wants to become a fighter pilot dreams of a combat situation, real-life combat situation, or at least a dogfight simulation type of fight with our own friends. Okay, so this is the instrument that you need to be focusing on. This is used to lock missiles on the other aircraft. This is used to trigger guns to move the aircraft right, left, up, down. This is basically the most important part. So your hand eye coordination will be very fast to use this particular thing, and there are a lot of things. So your hand eye coordination should be very fast, right? Now, at this point, I want to ask you, what kind of activities, games, and other activities like outdoor games and any other activity that you can do to develop very fast hand-eye coordination. Okay, so you can let us know in the comment box, right? So I've already told you, right, about these all switches. Stick abbreviation hot as J and hot as T, all of these things. When the throttle lever is released by the finger lifts and push forward, the engines are ignited. Okay, all right. G is used to control the elevator and rudder. So stick is used to control the elevator, and the this is also used to control the rudder. You can also control the rudder also using these sticks. Okay. The thrust of the two engines is controlled with the two throttle levers, abbreviated as HOTAS. When the throttle lever is released by the finger, lifts and pushed forward, the engines are ignited. So this has some finger lift stopping that. You put it out from those finger lifts, which is stopping the throttle, and then pull it slightly outwards, forward. The engines will start. Okay, it will get fuel and the engine will start. Okay, I hope you get some idea. What is lever? Lever is different. Throttle lever is different. This stick is different. Okay, throttle lever is somewhere else. Okay, towards the right side, left side that I showed you. Okay, and this stick is different. This stick is used to roll, is to go up, and you can also use to turn also, right? And you can also use the rudder, as it says that it can also be used to control the rudder. Although rudder paddles are also there, so you can also do it using rudder paddles. You can also do it using your this, so you can turn basically using hand also. Okay, roll also, you can roll also using your hands, right? And you can turn, because it says that at here it says control the elevator, right? An elevator which will control the pitch of the aircraft, and it is also used to control the rudder, which basically controls the turn of the aircraft. All right. All right, let me just in brief show you a picture. This is from our next episode, which we'll be launching about the CPSS test or any kind of pilot selection system test, particularly helpful for the CPSS or for that matter, any type of pilot selection system, right? So let me, give you an overall idea about this particular aircraft that you can see. If you look at the back, these are the tailwinds, right? So in on at the back side, which you can see these horizontal wings that you can see, these are the elevators. Can you see at the black end? These are the elevator. Okay, at this side is the also got you have got elevator. So this elevator is used to change the pitch. This back side, this is also the elevator. And you see at the front side, this is the horizontal stabilizer. This is used to control the pitch. Okay, so if you are going at a higher pitch, you can use the horizontal stabilizer to control the pitch going up or down. Can you see at this end, this back end, this is rudder. Okay, this rudder is used to change something called yaw. You already know what is pitch. So if the aircraft, this is the line of the aircraft, if the aircraft goes up or down, we will say that the pitch is changing, and a change in pitch. All right, so I was telling you about the pitch. Pitch is done. Now what is yaw? This rudder, it will change the yaw. Now what is yaw? If I take a vertical axis, let us say this is the vertical axis. So if I move about this vertical axis, this will be called yawing of the aircraft. So if the aircraft turns, let us say left, or it turns right, okay, I'll say the aircraft is yawing, or you can control it using the rudder. And rudder are the rudder paddles, or you can control the rudder through your joystick also. Okay, I hope you are getting it. What is the role of the aircraft? Let us say I'll tell you about the role of the aircraft. Okay, so can you see here at this particular portion, these black things, these are called ailerons. So if you focus on the ailerons, actually it causes, using the ailerons, okay, moving the ailerons, there are proper switches that you can use, right, to move the ailerons using your joystick itself. So if you change these ailerons, okay, I will tell you how to change it. We'll discuss the physics in detail sometimes later, but just listen ki, by changing the ailerons, by moving it down or up, you can cause the aircraft to tilt to a particular side, right? Let me explain it in a very basic. Let us say if you push this aileron down, Okay, imagine you push this aileron down. What will happen? More air will be blocked at the downside of this particular wing, right? If more air comes to the downside of this particular wing, pressure at this wing will increase towards from the lower side. That means this wing will go up and this wing will come down. The aircraft will roll, and it will be a case of a right bank. Okay, why right bank? Because this will go down. Okay. So by controlling the left aileron, you can turn the aircraft down towards the right side. I hope this is not confusing you. You can just have a look of all of these things. We'll anyway be discussing it in great detail, uh, as it is very 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 interesting to discuss. Right, now let us come back to this particular slide. Now the earlier what I showed you is called HOTAS J. Okay, there were two things, HOTAS J and HOTAS S. Now see, wherever you see an S, HOTAS S, right? Remember, S is for start, and start means engine start. Okay, an engine means it has throttle lever. So this heavy device that you can see is the throttle lever. This is the finger lift. It actually stops this from going forward. Now you pull this lift outward and you move the throttle forward. So that will bring some fuel to the engine, and the engine will start. Okay. All right. So I hope you are in a position to start a fighter jet. Okay, but you cannot, start a fighter jet till you have one. Okay. So in order to start, basically, let me summarize things. Okay, go inside the fighter jet. Look towards your left side, you somewhere, or right side, right console or left console. You will find some switches called the engine start button or the auxiliary power unit. Turn it on. Follow a due procedure of turning some other switches, a couple of them. Right. Afterwards, you just pull the finger lift from the throttle, push the throttle outward. What it will do is to start the engine. The engine blades will start moving. They are called compressors. And now once you put the throttle outward to idle position, something called IDLE, throttle to idle position, it basically gives a very small amount of fuel just to ignite the fire. So the fire gets ignited, the engine gets start. Now you move the throttle more forward, you will see the engine starts crying a lot. It makes a lot of sound. It pushes a lot of material outward. Rest is taken care by Newton third's law, right? And then you move forward. Basically your material that is coming out from the back of the fighter jet, it pushes the air, right? And air in return pushes the fighter jet, right? It goes forward. So that is how the fighter jet moves forward. Then all what about lift? What about going into the air, right? So to go into the air, it is all about the role of the wings, right? And the velocity. Let me explain it in very very brief. Let us say these are the wings of the aircraft. Okay, so if these are the wings of the aircraft and air is coming in this particular direction, so because of the shape of the aircraft, what happens is that towards the lower side, let me show you from another angle. Okay, if these are the wings of the aircraft, this is the lower side. So now what happens, that more air starts building towards the lower side, thereby increasing the pressure at the lower side and decreasing the pressure at the upper side. That gives aircraft a lift, which cancels the weight of the aircraft. As simple as it sounds, but not as simple in practicality. It requires a lot of practice. Okay, so I think everything is clear, right? This first hour I dedicated you to make you aware from the very end itself, not from the very beginning, that what you will be doing once you clear all of these process, once you are aware of the history of the Indian Air Force and everything, basically how a fighter jet flies. The summary says it all. Throttle is controls the engine power, thrust, and typically located modern hotter setup. You can just lock it on the right side of the cockpit. The stick controls the aircraft. Okay, so a stick is going to control the pitch, roll, and yaw, everything. So whether your aircraft is going up or down, controlled by the stick. Whether it is banking towards the left or right, or tilting towards the left or right, it is controlled by the stick. Whether it is turning, which is called yaw, it is also controlled by the sticks. And this is very buttons for the communication, right? Really simple. Now you can just have a summary of all of these things. I have provided a summary. You can pause the video and just read through the summary. What will happen if the engine start switch is located in the left instrument panel? It depends on aircraft to aircraft design. It might be located on the right instrument panel also, right? No hard and fast rule here. Okay, then fuel control switch, all of these things are given, so you can just have a look. I have already shown you, taken you through this, so I'm just sliding it over. So similarly, this is the left vertical panel, all of these controls, and also given is the role, right? Weapon jettison switch releases unneeded or dangerous weapons in an emergency. Then is the hydraulic pressure indicator. So what is the role of the hydraulic pressure indicator? It shows the hydraulic pressure levels which control flight control surfaces like ailerons, elevators, and rudders. Okay, so you need some amount of pressure because this is all a pitot static system. It uses hydraulic principles, flow of air, fluid dynamics to move these paddles like ailerons, elevators, and rudders. So these hydraulic pressure must not go down from a particular level. So this is the hydraulic pressure indicator. This is the electric panel. Oxygen supply control monitors and adjusts the oxygen supply to the pilot. Fuel gauge, this displays the fuel level in the aircraft. Air data computer provides data on airspeed. Flight data recorder, it records the flight data for later analysis. Right. Weapons control panel selects and controls the deployment of weapons, bombs, missiles, etc. Radar control panel, it is just radar settings and modes. Primary flight display, it displays the essential flight information such as speed, altitude, heading, and attitude of the aircraft. Landing gear lever. So basically at the very start of the aircraft, you will find two landing tires, two or three or a couple of them, right? It is used to raise or lower the landing gear. Then is the altitude warning light. It activates when the aircraft approaches an unsafe altitude. Okay, so basically this is the detail of where you will find this instrument. Okay, and these are the instrument. I'll tell you ki, just have some idea that these are the instrument. The location vary from the design of the aircraft to aircraft. Okay, navigation radio panel is in the left instrument panel. Allow the pilot to adjust the navigation system or communication radios. Altitude warning light, already we have done. Left vertical panel, emergency oxygen mask switch, activate the emergency oxygen supply if needed. Autopilot control switch engages or disengages the autopilot. Engine fire button, use case of an engine fire to activate fire suppression systems. All right. Navigation light control controls the aircraft's external lights for identification and visibility. Right. You need some lights also in in night setup. Icing warning light illuminates when the aircraft encounters ice formation on surfaces. This is in the right vertical panel. Throttle control controls the aircraft's engine power. This is in the left console. Engine RPM control adjust the engine speed to optimize power for different phases. Weapons release button used to release bombs, missiles, or other weapons. So that is at the left. Flap control lever adjust the aircraft flaps for better control during takeoff or landing. You can control it from the left console. All right. Right console, which is the brake control, activates and control the brakes for landing and taxiing. Okay. Uh, Gun control button. Right control activates and control the brakes for landing and taxiing, because you need to also apply brakes and move in a particular fashion when you are taxiing towards the runway or moving towards the hangar. Okay. Gun control button fires the aircraft guns. Okay. Landing gear position indicator shows the current status up or down of the landing gear. So that is located in the right console. Okay. Head-up display is the altitude display, speed display, targeting crosshairs. Okay. So these are the target crosshairs. Okay. So you can locate your target. Displays aiming markers for targeting weapons or enemy aircraft. So that is on head-up display. Directly on your head-up display, there is the target. You can just lock it up and fire. Flight path vector shows the aircraft's current flight trajectory. Okay. So this flight path vector, it basically shows you the aircraft current flight path trajectory, what path you're taking. Hands on throttle and stick, it has throttle, controls the engine power, weapons release button, countermeasure switches, right, like flares or chaff. Okay. So what are these flares? You need to have some idea about the flares. All right. So flares are basically uh, these things that we use to mislead the enemy's missiles. See, if there is a heat-seeking missile coming to attack your aircraft, what you can do is to engage them with flares, because flares are aluminum chaff foils, right, which catches fire. It reaches very high temperature. When once an enemy missile comes nearby your particular aircraft, the flares will mislead them, right, divert them, and the missile will not be able to decide whether it is hitting flares or whether it is hitting the missiles. So this is a very good thing. When you feel you got locked with some enemy, then you can just quickly deploy flares, make a sharp turn, fast turn, right? All right, and you can escape these countermeasures. So this helps in combat or dogfight. Radar or weapons selection button switches between radar modes or select different buttons. All right. So this is for radar. You can also fire some BVR missiles, all beyond visual range missiles. All right. So what are beyond visual range missiles? Okay, so you might not be able to see your enemy through your eyes, but you can see his radar signature on your radar displays. So you can just fire a missile, lock, it will go, through the radar signatures of the other aircraft, it will go and hit the other enemy. So you just not need to be, just locking it just by seeing. Okay, gone are those days. Hot SG is the trigger button, missile lock, launch, flap control. Okay, control the aircraft flaps. You can also control it. Okay, throttle adjustment, missile launch button, speed control button, altitude hold button. So this is hot SG and hot ST. Okay, so J basically stand for joystick, T stands for throttle. Okay, and not to get confused, so these sticks are basically, these are just sticks. Okay, and this is basically used to either move the aircraft left, right, up, down. Okay, turn it, fire missiles, and throttle stick is used to fire the engine and give it some power and increase the speed. Okay, uh, turning the fighter jet left or right, so that you can do using the control stick, roll control, left turn, roll left, push the control stick to the left, and you can turn left towards the left wing. Okay, towards the left wing. The left aileron moves up and the right aileron moves down. So shall I need to show you the aileron again? Okay, so these are the ailerons. Okay, so how to turn it using that thing? So to turn left, you push the control stick to the left. Okay, once you put the control stick to the left, okay, the left aileron moves up. So here you can see the left aileron. I think let us say what is the left aileron? This aileron, it will move up. So once it will move up, more air will be on the upper side. So more pressure on the upper side. So it will just tilt on the left side. So once it starts tilting on the left side, you can just it will start turning also. So that is it. So similarly for right turn, push the control stick towards the right. Okay, and once you do it, the right aileron will move up and left aileron move the aircraft to roll to the right. Okay. So I think this is for a roll. Okay. Okay. So this roll control is being done by using your aileron. I already told you. And remember, yaw is control using the rudder. This is not. This is not turning. I repeat. Okay. If I might have said it turning, the aircraft is actually not turning to left, but it's just tilting to left and going in that same direction. So it is just going forward in a tilted fashion. Okay, and not changing its direction. It was the heading is not changing, right? It was heading at, let us say, 80 degree. It is all still heading 80 degree, but in a banked fashion. Okay, in a tilted fashion. Heading will only change once you apply rudder. Okay, so you apply the rudder, then the heading will change. Okay, and that is also simple physics. Now similarly, left console, right console, fighter jet up and down, aircraft nudge up, the pilot moves the control stick forward, okay, or backward. Nose up, pull the control stick back. So if you will put the control stick back, you will climb. This is very easy thing. Trim control, adjust the aircraft pitch to keep the nose steady, reducing the need for constant stick input. Okay. So adjust the aircraft pitch. So if you put this switch called trim control, this actually adjusts itself the aircraft pitch to keep the nose steady. Okay. It does not go up and down. So you can just relax and need not to give the constant stick input. Okay. Similarly, yawing left and right. This is done by the rudder paddles. Uh, to move the aircraft nose left or right, the pilot uses the rudder paddle. So if you want to yaw to the left, so yaw to the left means think you are sitting in a fighter jet. I want you to imagine, think yourself sitting in a fighter jet, and if you want to yaw to the left, move to the left, then you need to press the left rudder paddle with your left foot. So imagine your left foot now, and you push it, and once you push it, the aircraft will go to the left. Are you there with me in the skies? You need that kind of dedication and commitment, right? You're to the right, you already know, right? Sometimes there is coordinated turns. Coordinated turn will mean a smooth turn when the aircraft is not skidding or not slipping. Now what are these things? What is meant by skidding or slipping? If I can explain it to you in simple terms, if you see an aircraft, okay, and if you are turning towards right, let us say, so that turn, let us say you are sitting in a car itself and you turn towards your left. Okay, so once you're turning towards the left, it might happen you go towards the left, you slip towards the left, so that is a slipping turn. or it might happen you are excessively going towards the right, towards the window because of the turn. Okay. That is a skidding turn. So if you go outside, that is an skidding turn. If you go inside, dragged inside in the direction of the turn, this is like you are slipping in turn. And a coordinated turn is basically very smoothly coordinated turn. Neither you are going inside, neither you are going outside. So it is just maintained by using the aircraft banking, aircraft pitch. Everything is minutely controlled for a coordinated turn, right? Um, I can say that is super maneuverability, right? For example, in a left turn, the pilot would move the control stick left to roll left. Gently place the left rudder paddle to your left for coordinated flight. So let us say you want to turn left. So you move the control stick to left and you just gently press the rudder paddle. Okay, very gently press the rudder paddle. Okay, to yaw to the left. So you are just moving to the left and you are yawing to the left. Do not press the rudder paddle, because if you push rudder paddle very hard, you will abruptly move, right? And which is not possible. It can damage your aircraft also. So these are very fine movements, right? And you just need to slightly do it, control the bank angles, and this can be very very risky if you are not doing it with correct procedure. That is why they give you that much amount of training. Think of those very heavy fighter jets that do this. Okay, for them you need to be for transport aircrafts, right? Like C-130J Super Hercules, you need to be very very fine with these movements. Increase throttle, pull the throttle back to increase engine power. Okay, vertical maneuvering, climbing, descending. So this is for vertical maneuvering, right? Increase throttle, pull the throttle back to increase engine power. More power results in greater lift and helps aircraft climb. So if you will put the throttle right, so you'll generate more lift and it will help the aircraft climb. If you decrease the throttle, put the throttle forward to lower throttle will reduce lift and it will cause them to descend. There is some role of your you know uh, flaps also, right? Flaps have roles there. So if you deploy the flaps, this is a good point to tell you about the flaps, right? Let me tell you about the flaps. So if these are the flaps, you can see at the back end of the aircraft, these are the flaps. This is the flap. Another set is aileron. Towards the far end of the wing is the aileron. Towards the inner end is the flaps. Okay, so these are the flaps and outside is the ailerons. Okay. These are the spoilers. They are used to change lift, drag and roll, mostly used during the landing. Okay. So when you deploy the flaps downwards, so this is the wing, you deploy the flap downward. Now what happens? Whatever air is coming from the forward, it gets trapped downward. When the aircraft gets trapped downwards, it increases the pressure at the lower side of the wing, and hence the aircraft goes up, right? But I can say the velocity of the air particles also increases. Actually, the velocity of the particle decreases at the lower end, pressure increases. In Bernoulli principle, if you talk about the Bernoulli principle, it can be a little confusing. That is why I have simplified the version. Okay. If you talk about Bernoulli principle, what happens actually, since more particle of air is there, so the velocity slows down since the space is less. There are more particles. So the velocity slows down and pressure increases, the lift is generated. Flaps has a role there. Okay, you see, these are very simple things. This is also a summary now. You can have a look at all of these things. Okay. Now there are some external features. I've already told you about them, right? Haven't I? Wing, ailerons, I have already showed you. Elevators, okay. Wings actually are for roll and lift. Ailerons, I already told you. You see here at this particular portion, it is used to roll aircraft to the left or right. Elevators, if you see elevators, where is the elevator? This is the elevator, and this is actually used to control the pitch. Aircraft can go up, down, right, and you can increase your throttle, right, to increase the airspeed going up or down. Rudder paddles, it is for turn, yaw control. Flaps you already know. Let me tell you about the slats. Have I shown you the slats? Okay, these are the slats. Actually, slats are at the forward end of the wings. Okay, means if the uh, head of the aircraft is this is the forward end. So these are the slats. And what is the role of slats? So slats are basically used for lift improvement. Okay, located on the leading edge of the wings. Okay, slat extend forward to improve airflow over the wings at lower speed, enhancing lift and preventing stalls during low speed maneuvering, takeoff landing. So they just go forward. Okay, so this is basically design of blocking more air. So if the slat goes forward and the backside flaps goes downward. Let us imagine that earlier the slat was up till this blue line itself. Okay. So only in this area, this blue area, air was blocked. Now if the slat increases to red line also, more air gets blocked and hence more lift is generated. Speed brakes, air brake, landing gear, tail plane. This feature helps in maintaining a stable flight by providing counter force to the elevators. Okay. Horizontal stabilizers. Okay, will have to show you. These are the horizontal stabilizers. Okay. So if you are doing extra pitch, these are the counter measures. Okay, or these are called tail planes. Now canards. Canards are these setup, you will find in fighter jets. Okay, especially in like Su-30 MKI. These make them super maneuverable, right? Canards are small wings placed forward of the main wings to provide additional lift and control. They can improve maneuverability, especially at high angles of attack and during sharp turns. Okay, so these canards basically have a role in sharp turns. Okay, they make things super maneuverable. Fine adjustment. All right. Vortex generators, flow controls located on the wings or fuselage. These vortex generators are located on the wings or fuselage. Vortex generator will maintain a smooth airflow over control surfaces at high angles of attack, reducing the risk of stalling and improving control during aggressive maneuvers. Okay. So this is it. And what is stalling? Okay, let me discuss stalling a bit. Okay, see, to keep an aircraft in flight, you need to constantly have air supply. For that matter, you need to be, at a sufficient velocity in air. If you decrease the speed of the aircraft in the aircraft will directly come down. Why? Because once you move the aircraft in the air speed increases. As you move faster, more air particles you counter. Okay, at a particular time. So if you just decrease the speed of the aircraft, less air and air will be coming to the wings, beside the wing very slowly. Okay, and not fastly. So if the air will be coming slowly, right, and less amount of air will be reaching, it will cause the lift to reduce and the aircraft will stall. Means it will start moving down. It will have less lift. The weight will increase and the weight will exceed the lift force. The aircraft will come down. So that is the stall status. So you need to maintain a particular velocity so that the airflow is maintained and the lift generated. It's all about the airflow. Okay. It's very simple. You sit on a bike and you ride a bicycle. All right, sorry, my mistake. You sit on a bike, you ride a bike. I was saying you sit on a bike or ride a bicycle, right? Whatever you can prefer. So once you are sitting on a bike, you start with some velocity. You feel some air hitting your hair, hitting your cheeks, right? So once you increase the velocity, you feel the air more, right? Same goes with aircraft. Once you increase the velocity, you feel the air more, and more air means more lift and more of Bernoulli principle involved. Okay, so that is it. Never go below a particular velocity, otherwise aircraft will come down. That is called stall. Nobody wants to get stalled. Okay. Afterburners, exhaust nozzles, wingless structures, pitot tube, and static ports are there. Okay, that is part of the aircraft. I hope you get a fair amount of idea about flying an aircraft. Aircraft fly based on four fundamental principles, which is the lift force, weight force, thrust, and drag. Okay, I'll be telling you about these force in brief. Okay. See, the aircraft that you are seeing has some weight, so the weight always act downwards. To counter that weight, right, the aircraft has to generate some lift and lift act upward. Alright, when the aircraft is moving in a forward direction, the drag force is acting backward. The air resistance is not allowing it to move forward. But the thrust that the engine produces acts in the forward direction and it allows the aircraft to move forward. So these are the four fundamental forces: lift, weight, thrust, and drag, which helps an aircraft fly. Okay, so this is very, very simple. I have already explained. You can pause the video and you can just read it through the slide. I will also be providing you the slide at the particular Telegram channel that I have mentioned. The link will be in the description. You can check it out. Right? Okay. Okay. So this is basically the working of a jet engine and the principle of jet engine. Right. So how is it working? Let us have a look. So firstly, there is an air intake. If I tell you about a jet engine, okay, the jet engine sucks in air through its front intake. The air enters the engine and is compressed. So once air enters the engine, the air was at a very large space. Then we compress it, making it move faster as it moves towards the rear of the engine. And we compress it. We increase its velocity. The compression section has a set of spinning blades, squeezes the incoming air, increases the pressure and temperature. By compressing the air, the engine is preparing it to burn more efficiently. So now a warm air will burn the fuel. Mixing with fuel, the compressed air then moves into the combustion chamber where it is mixed with fuel, usually kerosene. The fuel is ignited, causing the mixture to burn and create hot gases. So now the blast happens, it creates hot gases. The burning of the fuel air mixture releases a huge amount of energy in the form of hot high pressure gases. These gases expand and flow rapidly through the engine. Now the turbine section of the engine, which is connected to the compressor, spins as the hot gases passes through it. The turbine uses some of the energy from the hot gases to keep the compressor spinning and maintain the engine's operation. After passing through the turbine, the hot gases exit the engine through the nozzle where they are expelled at high speed. The rapid expulsion of gases generates thrust, pushing the aircraft forward according to Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So you see, it's all about the air, its compression, it's burning with the fuel, and then the hot gases passing, moving the turbine. Some energy is used to again keep the compressor blade running. Okay, and then the hot gases is fueled outwards causing thrust. Okay, so this is how it works. Okay, pre-flight preparation. Before entering the cockpit, you have to check the weather. You have to read the pre-flight briefing. You should be aware of the weather conditions including wind speed, visibility, cloud cover, to ensure safe flying conditions. Okay, because you are flying with the instrument, you are not flying looking outside the cockpit. Okay, so you have to be aware of all these flight parameters that are there. Get briefed about the flight route, objectives, and any potential threats. Review emergency procedures and landing plans. Personal gear: put on the flight suit, helmet, oxygen mask, G-suit for protection during flight. Ensure that all personal gear is properly secured. Aircraft logs: review the maintenance logs, verify that the aircraft is in good operational condition. Alright, so this is it, and I hope this gives you a fair amount of idea about flying an aircraft. Now what I will do is to quickly take you through these things that I have told you in a written format. I will not read them. You can just pause the video or you can read it later at your own comfort. This is the step-by-step process of starting an aircraft. Okay, climbing the radar, security, put on oxygen mask. Okay, turn on the battery and electrical power switches to supply power to the cockpit system. Verify that cockpit displays and system power up correctly. Activate the auxiliary power unit. Then the engine startup, engine start sequence. Okay, turn the engine start switch to the start position. You will see the RPM gauge raised as the engine start. Monitor the oil pressure. Stabilize the engine. Once the engine start, ensure it stabilizes at idle speed. Verify the readings on the engine display. Okay, you have to stabilize the engine at a particular RPM value. System check, taxiing to the runway, steering. Okay, this is the parking brake to begin moving. Gently apply throttle to begin moving forward. So you can apply throttle, you will gently move forward. You can use the rudder pedals, go here and there. So this is very easy. You can do the communication, takeoff, climbing, right? You just have a look through this. Okay, this is the landing, throttle to full power. Okay, all right. And same thing, see, same thing is given for your uh, rotary blades devices also, right? For example, an helicopter, right? So this is for a helicopter. Let me show it to you. Okay, you have to start the engine, check for normal flight operations. Okay, taxiing and hovering. Okay, rotor management, engage main motor, slowly increase throttle to engage the main motor. Okay, rotor and tail motor. So hovering is a skill unique to helicopters. Use the collective to maintain altitude and cyclic to keep the aircraft in a stable position. So there is a device called collective in helicopters. It is used to maintain altitude, and there is a device of cyclic which is used to keep an aircraft in a stable position. Eh, you know, Let me tell you that to work with an helicopter is a very very brilliant technique. It requires more effort than to work with a fighter jet. Okay, you will be surprised because you cannot put your hands outside the cyclic, out of the cyclic at any moment. You have to constantly be engaged with the helicopter. Okay, so this is a little tough compared to the fixed wing fighter jets. Okay, so taking off, increase collective pitch. Okay, increase the collective. Right, once airborne, climb at safe rate. In flight operations. Okay, maneuvers, mission specific task. Preparing for landing. Okay, rotor speed, maintaining the rotor speed, all of these things. So I hope these things are clear. Alright, before we really move forward, let me just brief you. Alright, before we move any further, let me just brief you about the working of a helicopter compared to a fighter jet. See, you in a fighter jet, you saw that the thrust was being generated by a jet engine, right? Air is being sucked by the forward inlets, air inlets, then it was compressed. After the compression of the air, the fuel got injected, it burns at a very, very high temperature, then it comes out of the nozzle, it pushes the air, a massive explosion happens, it pushes the air backward. Then everything is taken care by the Newton's third law, right? Newton's third law, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, right? So the the fuel that is coming out, the blast of the fuel, the explosive gases that are coming out from the back end of the aircraft, it pushes the air at one side, the air pushes the aircraft to the forward side. So that is how fighter jets work. But what about helicopters, right? Helicopters does not have jet engines as powerful as fighter jets. So how helicopters fly? So the idea is simple. Helicopters has rotor blades. These blades move at a very high speed, and obviously the movement of the rotor blades is controlled by a turbo shaft engine. Or the engine is not that powerful as compared to a fighter jet, but powerful enough to move the rotor. So now once the rotor blades rotate, it not only rotates to create a lift force, but also it can be adjusted or tilted up and down to generate a forward lift. So it not only creates, you know, a lift in the vertical direction, it also creates a lift in the horizontal direction. For example, let us say if you have a tilted kind of thing, right? The wings are at a tilted location. You see there are, like, let us say there are 3 blades or 4 blades. It can move down in a up and down fashion. So the pilot of the helicopter does this if he moves it in a particular direction, right? So it will be getting a lift. Okay, and if that lift, let us say, is acting in this direction, it will have a vertical component and a horizontal component as well. So by moving the blades of the helicopter, he gets a component of the lift in a particular angular direction. It gives a vertical lift and a horizontal component of the lift, right? He does it using some devices called the cyclic, the collective, right? These devices called cyclic and a device called collective. Okay, these are the things, collective and cyclic control, that you can see. Let me show you a picture, or let me just describe the picture for you. So in a helicopter, there are 3 things important. Pedals are at your feet, right? Cyclic is right in front of you, and collective is towards your left side. Okay, so using the collective, what you can do is to move the aircraft up or down, right? Remember, using the collective, you can move the aircraft up or down. Using the pedals, you can turn the helicopter right or left. Okay, and similarly, using your cyclic, you can just rotate the helicopter, right? You can just rotate the helicopter using the cyclic. Okay, so this is the thing. During forward flight, the cyclic used to initiate turns or up and down pitches. So you can use the cyclic to initiate your turn, or you can also use it to move up and down. With the paddles, the helicopter can be turned along the y-axis. So using the paddles, it can be turned along the yaw axis while hovering, and with the collective, the pilot controls the ascent and descent. So collective is basically used to control the ascent and descent. So why not keep things simple? Collective, it controls the ascent or descent. So use the collective, you can go up, you can go down, right, by using the collective. So it's basically using the lift adjustment you which you do using the collective. So you might be changing some orientation of the wings so that less lift is generated below the motor blades, rotor blades. Then the helicopter will come down. More lift is generated, the helicopter will go up. So that is done by the collective. All right, and then the cyclic and the pedals, all this is used to, turn to the left or right, all of these things. So I've, just given you a broad idea of how helicopter is working. Okay, just keep that thing in mind. Now, finally, we'll be starting with the history of the Indian Air Force, right? This esteemed organization, right, where people who are a cut ever belongs, right? So we'll be discussing on this. All right. So I hope but before that, we'll be discussing about some terms in the IAF, which will give you a better idea. Let us say if I move forward and I discuss something called a squadron, something called supersonic, something called ramjet, all of these things. So you must be having some idea about the terms so that you don't get confused. So some of the terms we'll be seeing on this particular table that you are seeing. I'll zoom it. Don't worry, it will be visible, right? And then rest other terms, if something new comes, I'll be telling you then and there whenever it comes. Okay, I hope uh, rest being said, I hope the helicopter part was clear, right? I hope the cyclic part was clear. The cyclic, which is right in front of you, it is controlled by your hands. You can move it forward, and the helicopter will start moving forward. You can move it backward, the helicopter will go backward. You can move it to the right, the helicopter will go right. You can move to the left, the helicopter will go left. Okay, so this is that. Apart from that, you can also control the pedals, right? For yaw or turning, it controls the yaw of the helicopter by adjusting the tail rotor thrust. Okay, so actually the cyclic is like a kind of tilting thing, right? But rudder is, it is, in aircraft, the roll thing for a fighter jet, whatever was the roll, ROLL roll. It was being controlled by the ailerons, right? So if the aircraft is tilting towards the right, because the wing is tilting towards the right, but the heading is not changing. Similarly, in the helicopter, if you use the cyclic, you can just turn it slightly towards the right, left. You can move it forward. You can move it backward. Okay, forward, backward. All right. If you are moving it forward or backward, the cyclic, the aircraft is actually moving forward or backward. But if you are tilting it towards the right, it does not mean it has turned. Might have just tilted a little using the cyclic. Similarly, you can also use it using other things. Right? You can use it using other things, like if you use the aircraft. All right. So I have just kept things simple for you. Please make an analogy. For example, in an aircraft, you saw ailerons, right? Ailerons were used to just tilt the wing of the aircraft right or left. So if the ailerons were used to tilt the wing of the aircraft right or left, similarly in a helicopter, you can use the cyclic as a joystick to tilt the aircraft in right or left direction. So, but if you use the cyclic forward or backward, the helicopter will literally move in the forward or backward direction. And you can use the pedals to steer it towards the left or right. So very simple, cyclic and pedals are used to move in a particular direction, left, right, forward or backward. More effectively, pedals are used to turn, right? And cyclic is just used to tilt. Collective is used as a throttle, it lifts or lowers the helicopter, right? Now the next topic that we are going to discuss is the terms. All of the terms like the service ceiling, the air superiority fighter, a ramjet, a jet engine, the afterburner, the thrust vectoring technology. All of these things that might be asked in your SSB interviews also, and you must be aware if you are, willing to join as a fight pilot, right? Or you are in particular interested in aviation. So these other terms, I'll be, giving you these slides, but let me just, get you through the examples, because examples are the things, through which you can learn them better. So first example is about the service ceiling. So a Su-30 MK has a serving ceiling of around 17,500 meters, right? What does that mean? It means that it can fly at altitudes higher than commercial airliners and capable of performing high altitude mission. So it can go like at 17,500 meter, close to 57,000 feet. That much height it can operate. Okay. So similarly, the Su-30 MKI and the STOL Rafale are considered air superiority fighters. Now, what is this air superiority fighter? It's basically, if you are in air, you have superiority, right, over the enemy. So due to their advanced radar systems, long-range missile capabilities, and superior maneuverability, making them excellent at air-to-air combat and achieving control over enemy airspace. Okay. So if you are in a particular airspace, right, or if you are in an enemy airspace, you will dominate. It's about air superiority means I have some features in my aircraft with which I can dominate the enemy airspace, right? The features can be my mobility, right, my good maneuverability, my fast speed, my greater service range, fast maneuverability, thrust vector technology, right, other fighting capabilities, and my fighting capabilities. That is why I'm a superior. My AVAX or my electronic warfare systems, my radars, my stealth, all of these things can make me an air superiority fighter. Okay, I can intercept missiles, fly at high speed. So air superiority is basically a very vague term, but it simply means you have to dominate the skies. The BrahMos missile uses a ramjet engine. Now it comes about ramjet engine. All right, I hope you got some idea about the air superiority, right? Means dominating the sky because of dominating the enemy airspace because of our capability, like advanced radar system, long range missile system, super fast maneuverability, thrust vectoring, air to air combat, you know, edge, right, dominance, all of these things, and achieving control of the enemy airspace and securing our enemy airspace and don't letting the enemy overpower or do any kind of maneuver in our airspace, right? So the Brahmis missile uses a ramjet engine. Okay, for high-speed flight at a speed above Mach 2.8, ramjets are more efficient at sustained speed above Mach 1.5, making them ideal for supersonic and hypersonic missiles. So these are for ramjets. Okay, so let me just give you a brief idea about the ramjet. Okay, so see here, it is a type of jet engine that uses ram air compression. So ram air, what is ram air? Ram air is if when you are going when something like an aircraft is going through the air, then a pitot tube, that is tubes outside the jet, collect some air. Okay, or nozzles correct some air. So whatever air is collected, it is called ram air. Air compression caused by the aircraft speed for combustion. Instead of using moving compressor blades like conventional jet engines, it is more efficient at high speeds than turbojet engines. So at high speeds, since the air speed is already high, right? So the air compression is caused by the aircraft speed, and that air speed is used for combustion. So that is a ramjet engine, basically using the high speed of the air for combustion, right? Similarly, then jet engine I have already discussed. Okay, then afterburner, what is afterburner? Afterburner is a component used in jet engine that injects additional fuel into the engine's exhaust stream. This increases thrust at the cost of fuel efficiency, allowing the aircraft to achieve higher speed and performance, especially for combat missions. Okay, so the component used in jet engines that inject additional fuel into the engine's exhaust stream. Okay, so this is giving you additional fuel into the exhaust stream, increases thrust at the cost of fuel efficiency. Now, what is thrust vectoring? Okay, thrust vectoring is used in aircraft to direct the engine's exhaust flows to change the direction of the aircraft thrust. This enhances an aircraft maneuverability, allowing far greater agility, right, in performing aerial maneuvers. Right. Okay. If I also tell you about these engines like afterburner, Su-30 MKI uses an afterburner for supersonic flight to achieve speeds of Mach 2. This is often used in situations requiring rapid speed bursts, such as escape maneuvers or combat situations. Okay, Tejas Mk2 is designed with thrust vectoring nozzles, and Su-30 MKI also has. In a dogfight, an AIF Su-30 pilot might engage in a close-range combat with another fighter. The agility of an aircraft and pilot's skill become the deciding factor in maneuvering the opponent and gaining an upper hand. Okay, so this is it. This is about the dogfight. Intercept. So intercept, what is intercept? The IAF Rafale or Su-30 MKI might be dispatched to intercept an enemy aircraft crossing into Indian airspace. They would use radar system to detect the enemy and launch air-to-air missiles to neutralize the threat. So that is your uh, interception role. Countermeasures, you already know, flares, chaps that are used. Okay, so flares, chap, and electronic warfare systems protect the aircraft from enemy target, enemy missiles and enemy weapons. Okay, ground effect, a phenomenon where an aircraft experiences increased lift when flying close to the surface, typically at altitudes less than the wingspan of the aircraft. This effect is more pronounced in hovering helicopters and can allow for sustained flight close to the ground. Okay, so when an aircraft experiences increased lift when flying close to the surface, typically at altitudes less than wingspan of the, so when you are flying at altitudes less than the wingspan of the aircraft. So this is the wingspan and the altitude is less. The effect is more pronounced in hovering helicopters. Okay. For example, the IAF's Mi-17 helicopter utilizes the ground effect to hover at low altitudes. Okay. Apart from this, what is AEW? Airborne Early Warning, and CS, any control systems. So AVAX, Airborne Warning and Control System, okay, is used for surveillance and airspace control. It can track incoming enemy fighters or missile threats from far away, providing situational awareness to pilots and commanders in real time. So, so whoever is the commander, whoever is planning the overall mission, so they can just have a analyze the data from the airborne early warning and control system, and then they can plan their move about possible way of attack. Wingtip vortex, I have already told you, they maintain the circular spirals of air created by an aircraft wings due to the difference in pressure between the upper and lower surfaces of the wings. These vortices can affect other aircraft, especially during takeoff or landing. When a large aircraft like the C-17 takes off, it generates a wingtip vortex that can turbulently affect nearby smaller aircraft. This is why aircraft maintain a safe distance during takeoff and landing at airbases. So similarly, you must be having some idea about your sonic boom also that is being developed, because the sound gets accumulated, starts getting accumulated, the sound pressure, because you are flying close to the speed of sound. Okay, and then sound particles, the compression and rarefaction, they start getting accumulated and not getting a chance to move. So when they get a chance to blast, okay, then you hear a supersonic boom, right? I'm just trying to put it in very simple terms. Imagine what is a, I'm discussing about your supersonic boom. Actually, fighter jets fly at very high speed, okay, so if something flies, it will also create some sound, okay, but if you are flying very less than the speed of the sound, the particles, okay, are getting some time to move. The compression and rarefaction movement of the sound, okay, sound wave, okay, they are getting, or you can say sound energy, they are getting some time to settle down. But since you are moving very fast, you are actually creating a lot of sound waves, compression and rarefaction, and you have moved very fastly, and not allowed, right, sound to travel. You have, travel more faster than sound, creating more sound waves. They start getting accumulated towards the later end of your wings or the jet, and then suddenly they blast and they interact with each other. You hear a supersonic boom. Now, okay, stealth technology. Stealth technology is actually, the ability of aircraft to not be detected you in the enemy radars. Okay, what is fly by wire? So fly by wire is flying using wire, means advanced control system where traditional manual flight controls are replaced with electronic interfaces. This reduces the weight and enhances the precision of flight controls, improving aerodynamic stability. Okay, so it is an advanced control system where traditional manual flight controls are replaced by electronic interfaces. This reduces the weight, okay, and enhances the precision of flight controls, improving aerodynamic stability. So it's basically, shifting to digital things. The Tejas LCA uses fly-by-wire technology that provides enhanced control and stability in high-speed combat scenarios, improving pilot feedback and making the aircraft more responsive. All right. Apart from this, Tejas also has this autopilot system. For example, it can, fly without much interference and input from the pilot. Okay, so this technology that Tejas is having is known as autonomous flight technology. All right. So now, if we move to the next thing, is jamming. So deliberately disruption of enemy's radar signals, communication system, or essential missile guidance systems. It involves the use of electronic warfare systems to create interference, reducing the enemy's ability to detect or track targets. So imagine in a war situation, what happens that the enemy missiles are trying to, lock you up, trying to get informations about you, right? So if you jam the radar of the enemy, they will not be able to detect you, right? So this is electronic warfare. Or you can mislead their radars, giving them wrong signals of positions about you. Okay, so this is electronic warfare about jamming their radar systems. Precision guided munition, a class of weapons that uses guidance system. So This uses laser, GPS, or infrared to precisely hit a target, minimizing collateral damage. PGMs are used in surgical strike and high-value target ammunition. So this can be done in when you are strategically trying to hit. So, for example, Israel is using a lot of PGMs, precision guided munition, to kill their enemies. Vertical takeoff and landing. So aircraft capability of taking off and landing vertically eliminates the need for long runways. I think this particular ability is with IF's Harrier GR5 was one of the first VTOL aircraft. Okay, the Tejas Mk2 is also expected to incorporate VTOL. So this will be a game changer. Hypersonic. I've already asked you what is hypersonic. The speeds that exceeds Mach 5, 5 times the speed of sound. Forward air control, a mission where ground-based personnel or aircraft direct fighter aircraft to engage targets on the ground by providing precise targeting coordinates. FSCs often operate close to the front line and require accurate coordination between aircraft and ground units. Okay, so this is forward air control. During a combat scenario, a forward air control in the IF could direct a Mirage 2000 to strike enemy artillery positions by providing precise coordinates using advanced targeting system, ensuring the strike hits the correct target. All right, so this is it about the FAC, the forward air control. Okay. So forward air control means anything on the front line border, and mission where ground based personnel or direct aircraft direct fighter aircraft to engage targets to the ground by providing precise targeting coordinates. So you can just hit your enemy ground targets at the forward post. Refueling is air-to-air refueling. Is done by the Su-30, no, sorry, IL-76 aircraft in the your Indian Air Force. Sorry, IL-78 aircraft. Okay, 76 is only about transport. IL-78 aircraft is a tanker aircraft equipped for aerial refueling. Fighter jets like Su-30 MK can be refueled mid-air during long-range missions. All right, so this is it. All right, just before we start moving with the history of the Indian Air Force, I'll be telling you some surprising facts, which is this. Firstly, to fly a Su-30 MKI for 1 hour will cost you rupees 5.5 lakh per hour just for the fuel part, right? Similarly, for flying Rafale for 1 hour, it will cost 4 lakh an hour to fly that. So you can now calculate the amount of money that is invested during the training of, let us say, 2 years with a 30 minutes flights daily, right? Or it will, just if you calculate it, it will clearly surmount to 1 crore or 2 crore rupees per person. And similarly, once you go and operate it in the real time environment, it is still costing you 4 lakh per hour, right? So it's a lot of money going in, right? And the fuel that we are using is JP8, which is jet propellant 8. I'll tell you the composition of this particular fuel, what it is made of. All right, so that amount is a very gigantic amount, right? A colossal sum that is being spent, like 5 lakh literally an hour is what it costs to fly a fighter jet like Su-30. Now, why it is costing so much is because of certain factors which I'll be discussing. The jet fuel JP8 which we are using is of very high purity standards. It's a mixture of certain things like kerosene, C9 to C16 hydrocarbons. It contains anti-icing agents, diethylene glycol, monomethyl ether, right? So that it prevents fuel from freezing at high altitudes, right? You see, aircraft are flying at very high altitudes, and you should be preventing the fuel from freezing, right? And other things like lubricants and biocides. Now, if I just give you the price for 1 liter, 1 liter is very cheap. You will say ki 100 rupees per liter is the cost of JP8, 120 rupees per liter. But the trick is that if you operate a fighter jet for 1 hour, it consumes around somewhere around let me tell you the exact numbers. So if you just operate it for, let us say, 1 hour, so it will consume 6,000 liters at 1 hour at cruise speed. So that is why, because fighter jets are mammoth machine, right? Even a certain maneuver to move that giant machine in air, providing that much of thrust, requires so much of fuel. So 6,000 liters of fuel per hour. Now you multiply this 6,000 by 100. So if you multiply this 6,000 by 100, you will clearly see the amount goes to somewhere around 6 lakh. All right. So that is about the cost. All right. Now is the time when the real game begins, right? I am going to take you on a journey. This journey that, right, what can I say? You know the organization, but you should know the journey, right? You're going to belong to an very elite organization. People say, if you are a little tough, you belong to the army. If you are a little mentally fit, then you belong to the navy. But if you're both mentally robust and physically tough, then you belong to the air force, right? So to be a cut above, it is very very important that you go through this journey where things have started. So let me take you to 8th of October 1932. The IAF was officially established as an auxiliary air force of the British Royal Indian Air Force. So earlier it was British Royal Air Force. We were an auxiliary unit or the helping unit for the British Royal Air Force. So but we were established in India to support the British Royal Air Force. It started with a complement of 6 officers, 19 airmen, with its first aircraft being the Westland Wapiti biplanes. Right, so something that was made, Britishers made it for securing their interest in India, securing their missions in Myanmar, bombing in Myanmar, stopping the Japanese forces, right? Made us participate in the Second World War. So all of these things, with all these intentions, we were finally established on 8th of October 1932. But a time will come when we will drop this name of the Royal Indian Air Force, and we will emerge as the Indian Air Force, right? Now, let me tell you about, in short, about the Westland Wapiti plane, the role that it used to do. Firstly, why it was called a biplane? It was called a biplane. You can see it had two wings, one at the top, one at the bottom. That is why it was a biplane. You can clearly see some people sitting in there. One is flying, obviously, and another one is basically a weapon systems officer. It is handling a weapon and it is trying to hit other enemy aircraft that are coming. Right. So it was basically used for general purpose. It was for reconnaissance as a light bomber. The manufacturer was Westland Aircraft Limited in United Kingdom. Had its first flight in March of 7th, 1927 and inducted to IAF in 1933. Right. So this is it. After that, a crew was already two pilot and observer. Length is 35 feet, which is 10.67 meter. Okay, so that is this length of the aircraft. Wingspan is 46 feet. So length is like 35 feet. Wing is 46 feet. So can you see it? Wings are more. If you compare the total length of the wings, it is more than the length of the aircraft itself. Okay, height is 11 feet. So that is the overall height of the aircraft. Okay, empty weight is 1165 kg. Gross weight 1814 kg if loaded. Okay, power plant is one Bristol Jupiter 8 air cooled radial engine. So this was the power plant, one in number, Bristol Jupiter 8 air cooled radial engine. So engine power is 485 horsepower, propeller two bladed fixed pitch wooden propeller. You cannot do that much maneuver, okay, but you can basically fly from a particular place to another particular place. All right. Now, once we have established on 8th of October 1932, and we have got these Wasteland Wapiti planes, it's all about the first squadron, the number one squadron. The first squadron was formed on April the 1st, 1933. Number one squadron, the first squadron of the IF, was formed in Karachi with four Wasteland Wapiti aircraft. So you can see this Wasteland Wapiti aircraft, and it was established in Karachi. Now comes, okay, I'm taking you through chapters. It's like turning pages in the book of the IF, what has happened, the important moments, everything, right, in detail. So history of the World War Second. Now comes the World War Second. It was 1933. You remember the World War Second, 1941. Okay, World War II contribution, 1941 to 1945. The IAF actively participated in various operations during the World War II, including fighting against the Japanese in Burma. The force grew to 9 squadrons by the end of the war. The IF received honors for its gallantry during the war, including a Distinguished Flying Cross for number one squadron. Royal status was given in 1945. After World War II, the IF was granted the prefix Royal by the King George VI, given the kind of valor and commitment the pilots of the IF showed during the war, becoming the Royal Indian Air Force. So this is it. A Distinguished Flying Cross was already also given at that time. All right. So all of these motto of the Royal Indian Force are per ardua ad astra. Okay, so this was the motto, per ardua ad astra. Okay, now in the World War II first combat role, Burma marked the IAF first major combat operations in the World War II. The aircraft upgrade transition from Westland Wapiti to Hawker Hurricane fighters. So you see a transition. So Westland Wapiti now they shifted to Hawker Hurricanes. Right now, targeted there was strategic bombing done to the Japanese supply lines to the airfields, disrupting enemy logistics. So logistics is anything which helps you, you know, do your overall task. It can be your supplies, the rations, the trucks, right, weapons, jet fuels, everything, right. There is also a branch through the FCAT entry, which is the logistics branch, provided vital support to British and Indian ground forces, suffered losses in challenging terrain, but showed resilience, awarded the Royal Prefix in 1945 for bravery and service, conducted risky night bombing operations on Japanese positions. Indian pilots received the Distinguished Flying Cross for their valor, gained crucial experience boosting modernization post World War II. Now, here is a question for you which you have to answer in the comment box. So, the picture that you can see, he was the pilot to receive Distinguished Flying Cross during World War II. Who is he? So, you need to name this pilot. He actually got your the Distinguished Flying Cross during the World War II. Who is he? Also, answer who got in World War One. Okay, before Royal Air Force. So see, he was a pilot with the Royal Air Force, right? So before that, okay, the image that I can see, I am not clearly able to judge is it IAF or RAF. Most probably it seems IAF. So it might happen because after 5 or 6 years down the line we drop the title Royal. Okay, so it might happen. This is a picture from when it got converted into the IAF. Okay, who is he? To answer. Who also answer who got in World War One before RAF. In 1918, pilot joined RFC, which is the Royal Flying Corps. All right. Now 1945 is gone. World War is gone. Right. We won the Distinguished Flying Cross. Now it's time for partition. Independence and partition in 1947. Upon India's independence, the Royal Indian Air Force was divided. With Pakistan receiving part of the force, India returned the rest and started restructuring the Air Force. Now, if I tell you about the partition, the total aircraft which India got at that time was 170 plus. Pakistan got 30 plus aircraft. Operational airfield which India got was 15 plus, and Pakistan got 5. Pilots and personnel, majority of the trained personnel went to India. Some personnel went to Pakistan, which later migrated to India. Aircraft types was fighter, bomber, and transport planes. Primarily, Pakistan got primarily transport and reconnaissance aircraft. Aircraft division, 80% of the aircraft and assets went to India, 20% to the went to Pakistan. Most of the major air bases and facilities went to India, and limited number of air bases went to Pakistan. Now, for that matter, I would also like to give you an idea about our air bases and the Pakistani air bases. For example, if you get deployed at one of these air bases, you should be having a rough idea about the enemy positions and from where possibly or from which particular air base the enemy can make an attack. So, if you are anywhere in the Indian boundary, right, and these are the air bases that are located. If I take you to Jammu, right? There is an air base in Jammu. There is an air base in Udhampur, Pathankot, Srinagar as an air base. Okay, so Skardu as an air base, Kargil as an air base, Thwais, Leh, Daulat Beg, Oldie, Neomlag. All right. So let me divide it into two parts, to the LOC and LAC side. So if you go to the LOC side at the front lines, okay, you will find these air bases. To counter Pakistan, these are the air bases called Nalia. Bhuj, these air base. There is also a movie called Bhuj on this particular air base. Disha, Uttarlay, Jodhpur, Bikaner, and after that is your Suratgarh. Okay. After that is your Halwara, okay, Adampur, Amritsar, Pathankot, Udhampur, Jammu, Srinagar. All these air bases to counter your Pakistan. And in Pakistan also you can have a look at the air bases called Karachi, Faisal, Pasni, Bolari. All right, Sabaz, Sukur, Bawlapur, Farid, Sargoda. You remember about this airbase? Recently, a movie also got made on this particular airbase attack in 1965, which is called Sky Force, right? So this is the particular Sargoda airbase. It's directly through Lahore. If you'll go move on, you will encounter this particular airbase. And now to our another neighbor, which is China. So to counter them, we have the Daulat Beg, Goldi, Taus, Leh, Neoma Leg, right? All these air bases. Bakchi Ka Talab is also an airbase. Chakeri, Prayagraj, Gwalior, all these air bases are there. Prayagraj, Chakeri, Bakchi Ka Talab, all these you will be finding in your Uttar Pradesh itself. Okay. Now, the first air operation, if I talk about. So, what was the first air operation that the Indian Air Force was involved with? So, the Indian Air Force on October the 27th, 1947. Like how many days? 19 days after its foundation day. 8th of October is the foundation day. The Royal Indian Air Force airlifted troops to Srinagar during the Indo-Pakistani War of 1947, playing a crucial role in protecting the Kashmir Valley. Okay, so it was 27th of October. You can see a template also, right? You can see this aircraft, right? This aircraft, which is a Douglas C-47 Dakota aircraft, right? It is flying and it is taking troops, and you can see this image also flying over Kashmir, and it airlifted troops to Srinagar during the Indo-Pakistan War, playing a crucial role. You remember about this war when Pakistani, right? Some members of the military and some from the Kabalia tribes, they attacked with intentions to take over parts of Kashmir. They succeeded in taking some part, which is now called the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and we attacked, right, and stopped when Raja Hari Singh finally agreed to sign a treaty of accession to India. Number 12 squadron is rightfully called the saviors of Kashmir. So this is about the number 12 squadron. They are called Kashmir ke Rakshak, saviors of Kashmir. So this was Douglas C-47 Dakota, Hawker Hurricanes, Supermarine Spitfire. All right. Now, if I talk to you about this major air operation, number 12 squadron is rightfully called the saviors of Kashmir. Identify this person who flew that plane to Srinagar. So this is obviously written. This is Royal Air Force. You know, and this he was the man who flew this aircraft. You need to let us know in the comment box who was this person who flew this plane to Srinagar. All right, so whatever this operation has achieved has been given here in terms of these operational details. So the objective was to defend Srinagar, secure Kashmir region. Start date was October 27, 1947. Key aircraft used were Douglas C-47 Dakota, Hawker Hurricane Spitfire. Primary mission was troop airlift, close air support and reconnaissance. Initial action was airlift of troops to Srinagar to prevent fall to invaders. Key airbase was Safdarjung Airport in Delhi. Significant achievement was first ever military airlift by IAF, and challenges were mountainous terrain, limited landing space, weather conditions. Outcome secured key areas helped prevent fall of Srinagar. Right now comes the moment when the RIAF officially becomes IAF. So I can see you this image, right? So you can see Royal Indian Air Force per Edua ad Astra. Now it becomes the Indian Air Force. Okay. So, per ardua ad astra is a Latin phrase meaning through adversity to the stars, through struggle to the stars. So, per ardua ad astra means through struggles you will reach the stars. Okay. Republic of India, 26th of January 1940, India became a republic and the prefix royal was dropped, renaming it as Indian Air Force. So, it became the Indian Air Force, right? So, remember that major movement. Now IAF becomes IAF. So if I take you through, the new crest of the IAF, symbol and source of inspiration and encouragement. So this is the crest of the IAF. So you'll find it everywhere, right? In all the on the uniforms, on the cap, this particular symbol. Let us decode it. What is contents? Okay, you can see crest of the Indian Force is a Himalayan eagle. Okay, within a roundel placed directly below the state emblem of India. So this is the roundel, and this is an Himalayan eagle, and this is the state emblem of India. The word Satyamev Jayate, meaning truth alone triumphs, are inscribed below the abacus in Devanagari. So you can see Satyamev Jayate is written. It means truth alone triumphs, are inscribed below the abacus in Devanagari. Himalayan eagle symbolizes the fighting qualities of the Indian Air Force. The two circles below the Ashoka capital includes the word Bharatiya Vayu Sena. So there is a circle there. In fact, two circles. You can see one circle here, one circle here. It includes the Bharatiya Vayu Sena along with two chakras that are given. Okay. The scroll placed below it has the inscribed words in Sanskrit. Nabha Asparsam Deeptam. So there is a scroll and you can see Nabha Asparsam Deeptam written, which means touch the sky with glory. Verse 24, chapter 11, Bhagavad Gita. So it has been taken from verse 24, chapter number 11 of Bhagavad Gita. Now, finally, the RAF has become, I have already told you, I have said it's colonial past after 72 years with new insignia. So, this was crest, alright? This was your crest, and this flag that you can see is the insignia. Okay, so this insignia which you can see is now contains the Indian flag, the blue background, this roundel, and the Indian Force logo. Okay, all right. So we will be restricting this particular video in 2 hours episode due to some technical issues, and the next part of the next episode I'll be uploading in the next series of this episode, right, which is the part 2. So, talking about the modernization efforts, the IAF began to modernize, replacing propeller-driven aircraft with jet fighters, including the British-built de Havilland Vampires. So now it is about the modernization efforts. 1950, we needed to modernize because the world was rapidly changing, right? And the techniques of air warfare were changing. So IAF also began to modernize, and they replaced propeller-driven aircraft. So earlier it was all driven using a propeller, all right, with jet fighters. So what is a propeller? You will see this as a rotor blade. At the starting of the aircraft, it is placed. So this is a propeller kind of blade that is attached at the front of the aircraft. So IAF started inducting jet fighters with the British-built de Havilland Vampires. So Vampires were the first jet fighters, first jet aircraft. So if somebody asks you which were the first jet aircraft, IAF indicate the de Havilland Vampire. Its first jet powered aircraft. So this is the Vampire. It looks like Vampire because if you see at the back, right, it looks like bat or vampire. Okay, vampire has teeth actually, right? So it looks like the teeth of the vampire. That is why it is named the Havilland Vampire. So these were the jet aircrafts. Okay. So in the back, you can see the photo of Air Marshal Subrata Mukherjee. Right. We'll discuss about him. Now coming to the next portion, which is the your India-China War. So if you talk about the India-China War of 1962. Okay. First war, the Chinese border conflict in 1962, the IAF provided logistical support during the Sino-Indian War, though it did not engage in combat due to government constraints, right? So, but it's so provided logistical supports because at that time Pandit Nehru was very much into peace. He was of the opinion that China will not attack, and he was trying to portray himself as someone who was a pioneer in establishing peace in the region. So that was this obsession with peace and neglecting and ignoring China's real intentions lead IF not to take active involvement because I have wanted to follow the government's orders. Right, Chinese attack on both fronts. This is the news. Forward post fall in Nefa, which is Northeast Frontier Agency. Ladakh after stiff fight, no military planes in operation. Menon. Okay. Retaliation with China official view in Delhi. Relations with China. Reference to UN not yet. Okay. All right. This was the that time Menon was the defense minister at that time. The Indian ponds of Dola and along the McMahon line in the Nefa sector and two ports in the Chipchap River Valley area of Ladakh region sector failed to the Chinese on Friday. So this Chipchap Valley failed to the Chinese, right? So political decision. Nehru was cautious. Nehru did not authorize IF to engage. High altitude terrain made air operations difficult. IF was not prepared for high altitude combat. China had a more advanced air force, reducing IF effectiveness. Limited infrastructure and aircraft range hindered IF's involvement. Nehru's feared escalating into a broader conflict. China's air involvement was so there were some issues on the logistics side. But I'll say ki, the men that we have got in the Air Force, they don't care much about the logistics. Okay, if there is a condition that we must fight to defend our sovereignty, then it is not about what luxury we have as an aircraft. We have already seen, still to this day, Wing Commander Avinandan, he made sure that he used the MiG-21 fighter jet, and he killed a very advanced kind of fighter like F-21 from his jet. And similarly, in 1965, there was Star Striker, and we killed it. A.B. Debaiya, squadron leader A.B. Debaiya, managed to bring it down, right, using a very old aircraft, which Mistier aircraft. Okay, so that is the kind of metal, and that proves that it is always not the machine but the man behind the machine which matters the most. All right, so that was the history of the India-China War, 1962. One war, first war with China that we lost, and after that we have fought many war, and all of them we have won. Okay, and good lessons to learn from China. That is why after we have worked on it and we have achieved the Siachen Valley, so that we can have a aerial look at both our neighbors, right? To this day, we can without a doubt say that our air force is capable to handle, right, uh, this attack from China. But adding to that, we must rapidly increase the number of squadrons, right, and must rapidly work on fifth generation fighter and sixth generation fighter jets. Given China has already developed a sixth generation fighter, aircraft type was older model MiG 15, MiG 17, right? MiG 15, MiG 17, advanced aircraft with Chinese. We have older models like Tufani, Vampire, Hunter. Inferior in numbers, number was less, outdated for high altitude operations, limited experience in high altitude combat, limited role, ground forces focus, air power not fully utilized, used air power for logistical support and some strikes. So we were focusing on ground forces, right? Poor infrastructure, limited in northeast. So lessons to learn, right? Lessons to learn, definitely. Okay. So now in the next part to this particular video, when we starting, we'll be discussing this particular thing called India-Pakistan War in 1965, and the story continues. And we'll see you in the next part, right? With the Nats, the Saber Slayers. Catch you there. Jai Hind, and as I always say in the end, do take very good care of people around and yourself, and may the God bless all your efforts.